So I would say we can wait 1 minute or two, and then we can start. It's already live on YouTube. I can share the link with you if you want to share it with someone. Direct link.
Thanks. Should I start, or do you want to say something?
I'm just waiting for the okay. Should we start? Okay, so welcome to today's session of Ciclos Conversas, the second session from this year's edition from the Design Multimedia course of the University of Coimbra. Very pleased today to have our guest streaming live from Berlin. It's Jonas Pelzer. He's a designer and a developer who has a lot of interesting work, both for commercial clients and self-initiated projects. So we're looking forward to hearing about those. I think I can just pass straight over to you, Jonas, and let's begin. So looking forward to the session. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. And thank you very much for inviting me to Ccdm. Super happy to be here. Yeah, let me share my screen. So yeah, I'm Jonas Pelzer. I'm a designer and developer. I mostly design websites and recently also more and more typefaces. Also sometimes I'm involved in branding projects, mainly digital focused branding projects. Yeah, and most of the time it's actually websites. I studied graphic design in Düsseldorf. It's a kind of a very classical design, graphic design program. It's very typography based, which was great. And it's also media-wise, it's very print-based, which was super interesting, but not really what I was looking for, because I was always designing websites, and yeah, I kind of missed that there. In a way, it was also good because I was one of the few people in Düsseldorf at the school designing websites. So with almost every project which involved a website, everyone asked me always. So that was also good. But I missed the digital part in the education, which is why I decided to do my master's in Potsdam in the interface design program. Yeah. I thought I would present from my website because all the projects I want to show are online anyway, and they're linked to on my website anyway. So I figured, why make a PowerPoint? The best way to present is just my website, because yeah, it's already in the browser. Everything is working there. Why make screenshots and make a PowerPoint? That wouldn't make sense. And I want to focus mainly on my self-initiated projects, and maybe go to the commercial projects later. So let's start with my personal website. As you can see, it's super minimalist. It's big typography, black and white, only text and links. And when it first launched in a similar form, like 5 years ago, I think, it somehow hit a nerve because a few people approached me and asked me if they could use my site as a foundation for their own site. Yeah, they wanted to use my source code and sometimes change the text and the links, and sometimes change the typography and the colors, and use it as their own personal website. And some people didn't even approach me, and they just copied my source code. So I figured if there was so much interest in having a similar site, I'd just build a site builder for people to create a site like that. And that's when I built Temper. Yeah, it's made for exactly that, building a simple text-based single-page website without having to write code. Yeah, you can see on the right side some examples. It's all actual real examples of people using Temper. Yeah, it's a nice selection. There are a lot of interesting people using it. A lot of designers, artists, journalists, musicians, programmers. So I really like the kind of people who seem to be interested in using Temper. I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people because everyone wants to have like a personal website or a business card on the internet, but they don't really have a lot of original content to put there because a lot of stuff is already online in other places. Like I don't know, if you're a journalist, for example, maybe you want to present the articles you have written, but they're already online on the magazines, on the newspaper site. So all you need is a central place to link to them. Or if you're a designer working for an agency and your case studies are already on the agency side, but you want to have your own site to just link to them. Or for a lot of people, it's just saying who they are and linking to their social media accounts and adding contact data. Yeah, so it's really easy to use. It just works like this. You can simply enter your text. Remove paragraphs. Add paragraphs. Add links. Then you have this settings tab. You can add some metadata here. And of course, change the appearance. Text color and background color, for example. Font size, of course. And you have some fonts to choose from. You can choose generic fonts, of course. Then you can choose my fonts, of course. And typefaces by the Foundry, nice to type. And also some selected Google fonts. And then when you're happy with your site, you can download it for free. It's just one HTML file. It will have this build with Temper link at the bottom. which links back to the temper page, the temper site. And if you want to remove that, that's possible with a one-time payment of $29. But that's optional, of course. If you're happy with the temper link at the bottom, you can use the free version. So yeah, as you can see, you can super quickly and easily create a one-page website like this. I think it originally, I published it originally around 4 years ago almost. And since then, I'm continuously developing it further. But I don't want to add too many features because I think the best thing about it is that it's really reduced in its functionality. And if I will add too many features, it will bloat the whole tool, and it will go in the same direction as other website builders, but it probably won't be as good as other website builders for like a complete portfolio site or whatever. So I think it's really good at Temperus. It's really good for really making these single page text-based websites, and it shouldn't be much more than that. The next project I want to show you is Scope. It's a typeface I designed. I always thought I would never want to design a typeface. I mean, my work has always been very typography focused, but it was always about working with type and not designing type. But I changed my mind when the variable font technology was introduced, because then I saw a chance to combine type design with interaction design and make fonts to be used interactively. And then I was interested. So Scope was really especially designed for that use case, because that's how I came up with the letter forms. I wanted it to be kind of octagonal, because this way, if you want to change the width, for changing the width, I only had to change the length of the bars, of the stems, not the bars, the stems. To make it bigger, I just had to make the lines bigger, and to make it wider, I had to make the lines bigger, and to make it more condensed, I just had to reduce the line length. But because there were already some similar typefaces, other octagonal typefaces, I thought I had to make it somehow more original, change something about it. So I wanted to combine it with rounder letter forms, and then I came up with the rule that closed forms, like the S and the C, open forms like the S and the C are angular, and round forms, closed forms are round. So open forms like S and C are angular, and closed forms like the O are round, or not actually round, but oval, to make it work better combined with the angular forms. O and P are oval, and the E has both. The lower part is open, so it's angular, and the upper part is closed, so it's oval. The title text reacts to the cursor position. The x-axis changes the width, and the y-axis changes the weight. You can always invert the colors. Then there's a description, which also shows how Scope looks if used for a text. And then there are some interactive examples. So some really basic uses of the variable font combined with some interaction to give you an idea of how you could use it interactively. I think this one is a good example to see how the letter forms change. Yeah, if you look at the word type now, it's super condensed, and now it's wider. Then there's the type tester. When you scroll this one into view, then these control elements appear so that you can change the axis. And the font size, of course. And then there's the character set. When you scroll this into view, the font size slider disappears. You don't need that here, but the weight and width sliders still work. Yeah, and some time after designing scope, I thought it was fun designing a typeface. I should do that again. And so I designed Fictional, which is kind of a cartoon-inspired, friendly, quirky typeface. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to build this microsite to present the typeface, because it obviously had to look cartoony as well. So yeah, I went for that quirky look there too, and used a lot of animations, where I also try to get the easing right, to also have this cartoon character in the animation style. And yeah, similar as the scope side, this side just presents the different styles of the typeface. As you can see, the cursor is also trying to match the style with this oversized, cartoony cursors. And for the character set, I try to get this cartoony animation style to an extreme. If you look at the detail view of the letters. I try to combine the possibilities of the typeface with the CSS animation possibilities here. As you can see, the typeface gets bolder in the animation, and then when it moves back, it gets thinner again. So cartoony buy now button also. And I wanted to add some Easter eggs to the site and try to add some gamification maybe. Yeah, and if you scroll down, it's a bit later, a toolbar will appear with a text mode. So now you can also change some of the texts and look how it looks, how the typeface looks when you enter your own text. The text you can change are they have this blue border. Don't know what to write, doesn't matter. And then when you think you messed up the whole site and you want the original text again, you can just click the restore button and everything's back to normal. And after you restored the site, a few seconds later, the fire mode is unlocked. So now you can't only change texts, but you can also shoot things. There's also a score up here, so you can see how many elements you've shot. Yeah, so that was fun to code. And of course, you can always restore it so that all the elements reappear. Yeah, that's fictional. Yeah, after I designed 2 typefaces, of course, I had to make a type foundry website so that I have a central place to present and also sell the typefaces. Meanwhile, there's also a third one. Other than the microsites to present the typefaces, the foundry site was supposed to be very clean and yeah, I wanted it to have this kind of what I thought was a classic type foundry look. So it's more inspired by Swiss design in a way. Yeah, so except for the typeface presentations here, you only have 1 font size for headings and body copy and everything. Only the typefaces which are presented are the styles which are presented are bigger, and yeah, you can of course test it here, test the typefaces, also the variable version, and copy the CSS to use the exact same settings you used here. But of course, here it's just less about the playful presentation than with the microsites. It's more strictly column based and more minimalist. Indicate Mono is the latest release, or it's kind of a work in progress release. It's just 1 style so far, and I will add more in the future. Yeah, since it's work in progress, I released it on a pay what you want basis. You can also enter $0, so you can get it for free. And also, there's a students page here. If you want to use one of my typefaces for a university project, it's completely free. You just have to send me an email through this form. And yeah, for non-commercial university projects, it's free. All right, so that's my Foundry website. Then there's Collected. It's a web design collection. Yeah, I'm collecting inspiring web design here, and I'm presenting 8 different sites on the 8 different sites at once. And when you shuffle the site, or when you just open it again, the 8 sites are shuffled. So you'll see new inspiration every time you visit it. That's what makes it different from other web design galleries. Usually it's more like a blog that you see the latest edition on the top. And yeah, so if you visit a common usual web design gallery several days in a row, you will probably see the same sites again and again. And yeah, I think the interesting thing about Collected is that you have new additions, not new additions, but news that you will see different sites on every visit. And to match that shuffling theme, the color theme of the site also shuffles. Yeah, so if you're ever looking for web design inspiration, I guess that's kind of helpful. It was originally just a Arena channel. I started to collect sites I liked for myself on the platform Arena. And as a project for fun, I wanted to play around with Arena's API. So I thought my biggest collection there was my web design collection. So I'm building something with that. But for technical reasons, it didn't work out the way I intended. So I'm not sure if it wasn't possible with the API, or I just wasn't able to do it. I don't know. But I couldn't load the whole content at once, but only a few ones. So I thought, okay, to make it still useful, I will just shuffle the results if I can't show them all at once. And yeah, so that's how the idea for shuffling the sites came up. So it was actually kind of it wasn't really on purpose in the beginning, but now I think it's what makes it special. Right, that's collected. Another project is Post Self-Evident Poems. It's a digital poetry publication with works by the author Guy Bennett. It's an American author, translator, and poet. This project started out as a university project. Sorry, it started out as a university project. I was supposed to design a publication, and there were no further limitations. So the medium was free to choose, and the topic, the content, was completely free to choose. And so I wanted to use this task to combine my interest in poetry with my interest in web design, and yeah, make a digital poetry publication. The thing is, I was never really happy with the way poetry is usually presented on the web. There are some exceptions. There are some really interesting experimental digital poetry publications, but mostly it's just template-based websites with just text put on there. So it's not designed around the poetry. Yeah, I wanted to change that a bit. And when I was looking for content to use for this task, Guy Bennett came to my mind because we were already in contact, because he was one of the persons who contacted me for making a similar site than mine. That's why we were already in touch. And yeah, because of that, I already knew his work, and I was a big fan of his previous work, which was called Self-Evident Poems. It's a collection of humorously written conceptual poems, which deal with their own form and their own process, how they were created. And since I really liked this work, I asked guy if it was okay to use his poems for my publication. And I wasn't sure what he would say, because of course he's also selling the book, and why would you allow me to use it on a free website? But he actually said, it's cool, you can use it, but I can also offer you something else. You can publish the follow-up work. So he already had written a follow-up work. It's called the Post-Self-Evident Poems, and they were unpublished at that time. So I wasn't only allowed to use it, but I was allowed to publish them for the first time. So yeah, that's even better. Let's look into it. Yeah, it's mostly, so the basic concept is really just, it's focused, the site focuses on the poem. You have one poem at a time, and then you have a pagination here to click through them, and a table of content, which is also a navigation, of course, so that you can jump to the poem you're interested in. But it's collapsed by default, so that you can really focus on the poem you're reading right now. And the interesting thing about this work was that there are some poems which ask the reader to do something, like this one, where you can write your own poem. And some of these, maybe with this one, it would have worked as a printed version too, but there are some other examples, we'll get to them, which wouldn't really have worked in a printed version. So yeah, it made a lot of sense to publish these works digitally. Like this one, the wiki poem. Anyone can edit this poem as they see fit. It's a poem that asks you to edit it, and you can actually edit it. And then there's the social media poem, for example, which asks you to share the poem on your favorite social media sites. And then there are sharing buttons underneath. Then there's the anti-social media poem, of course. But also longer, more classic poems without any interactivity. I like this one. Then there's the supersized poem. This poem is rather large. And of course, there's also the nano poem, where you have to zoom in to read it. Yeah, and of course you can also use the table of contents to jump to a poem you're looking for. Here you can go back to the digital cover. yeah, so these were my self-initiated projects I wanted to show you. If we have some more time, oh, yeah, if we have some more time, then I can also show you some client work maybe. Lederer Wagnersdottir is a Berlin-based architecture office. The branding concept was designed by Büro Übele in Stuttgart, and I was responsible for the interaction design and the development here. Yeah, as you can see, the logo type is built out of dots. And on the different pages, the letters are rearranged. So I built this animation to rebuild the dotted logo. And if you scroll down, it rearranges to a one-line logo. The works are presented less playful, of course. The playfulness is mainly in the logo. Another one is Klimaschau. It's a project which happened at my university. There was one semester which was which mainly dealt with the topic of climate crisis. So there were a lot of courses in that semester which dealt with climate crisis. And since it was also the first COVID semester, and there was a lockdown, so we weren't able to organize a typical end of year presentation. So we wondered how we could create an exhibition of the works of the course results. So we thought the only way is to design a website and make it feel like an exhibition as much as possible, which is how we came up with the two-direction scrollable canvas. And then the projects are organized all over the canvas. There's also a mini map down here, which you can also use to navigate. And then there's detail view for the different courses. And related seminar links. And the gradients, the colorful gradients in the background were also designed to make it easier to navigate, to remember where the project you were looking for was. So maybe you remember that the project you were interested in was positioned on a yellow space. So you can just go to the yellow spaces to find the project again. But if you know the name of the project you're looking for, you can also use the text navigation on the side, of course. Okay, then there's Nathalie Schneider. She's a stylist from Cologne. I designed this site together with my colleague Fons Korstiens of Us Design Club, also from Cologne. Yeah, we were looking for an interesting way to show a lot of photos because Nathalie is a stylist and she mostly works with photographers, and so her work is always presented within photography. And yeah, so we were looking for a fun way to explore a lot of photos. And yeah, so we have the different projects here, everyone with its own color connected to one project. And yeah, the thing was, there was really not a lot of content to present. There was really just photos. So we decided to just build a photo stack, a lot of photos up on each other, and then you can just click through them. You can navigate to the next project. Also, the layout is kind of randomized every time. So if you open the same project again, it will have the same photos, of course, and the same color, but the way the photos are organized on the stack will be different every time. Let me prove that, what I just said. In case you remember how it was organized before, it's different now. Same for the overview, it's always a bit different. All the projects are newly organized on every visit. Yeah, you get the idea. So maybe one more. JB10X, it's a digital identity and trust consultancy and venture building firm. I'm also involved in the branding design here. And they wanted to look very different from their competitors. They wanted to have a really bold appearance. We're currently working on landing pages for each of the services, so they will also look a bit different in the same style, but with a different layout. They will launch soon. The ventures page follows a similar style, but has a different, uses a different color scheme. We worked a lot with scrolling animation here, scrolling effects, to make the one-page generation more interesting. So I think that's it. Thank you for listening. Looking forward to your questions.
Okay, that's brilliant, Jonas. Thanks very much for your talk. I'm not sure if we've got any questions from YouTube yet, so maybe I can ask you a couple of questions. In the meantime, we'll see if anyone wants to message us to ask anything themselves. So thinking about which projects to ask you about, but maybe I'll ask you a general question about the self-initiated projects. So I see you've invested a lot of time and a lot of effort into those projects, but has that kind of paid off in terms of the professional work that's come out of it and how much it's raised your profile and so
on? It definitely pays out in a way that it gets my work out there, so yeah, it definitely helps with that. A lot of client projects come through the self-initiated projects. So it really helps with my visibility, with the visibility of my work. And yeah, I mean, they also I'm also trying to monetize some of them step by step. And for example, Temper, there's the premium version of Temper, the website builder, to remove the branding. There, I would say it does bring in some money, but this doesn't pay off. That it would have to be way more than it currently is. But for example, with my typefaces, it goes pretty well. It's actually, yeah, it's financially speaking, it's not that bad with the typefaces. It's a good business.
All right, that's interesting. I suppose it's a nice way to work in a way. You put those things out there, and there's a possibility that it can generate some income, and some can be more successful than others. Some can bring in different parts of work, but it's kind of having all these different possibilities that can go in different directions.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing I was going to ask you about, I see you're making quite a lot of websites that are basically identities. They're an interactive identity in some way that exists on the web.
Yeah.
I was curious if any of these clients have asked you, or if you've worked with them for that to move into other platforms, whether that's going into, I don't know, physical branding, like on objects and environments and so on, or moving into other digital platforms, moving image, for example.
I'm sometimes involved early in the process, so I'm kind of responsible for shaping the identity, which is then used by other people, by other professions. But I don't really. I'm not really the one who realizes the other media then usually, I mean, print design, yes, I do that, but like objects and moving image, no. Sometimes my work is there before this kind of stuff is there, so it's kind of based on the website which shapes the identity, as you said. But it's not me who realizes this then, it's other people.
So you're more likely to say, okay, that's out of my area, here's my contribution to identity, now you can take that and work with another designer to develop it if needs be. Okay.
And also sometimes my involvement in the process starts later, so there's already some kind of identity, and I design a website based on that identity. That also happens, of course.
Okay, very well. Do we have any questions coming in? All right, so maybe I can ask one more question. I was quite curious about the one particular identity, which is the ledere ragradotte, with the modular typeface made out of dots, and then the dots animate and the whole thing moves around. Can you talk a bit about how you made that work? Like, did you design the type yourself with the modules and then animate them with code, or like what was the process there to make that work?
No, this is actually one of the examples where I was involved later in the process. It's the branding concept was already there, and I was hired for the website after there was already a branding concept. So the logo as a not as a static logo, the different versions of the logo, they were already designed, and also it's an existing typeface. Not sure about the name right now, but it's an existing typeface with the dots. It was rearranged partly so that it all so it was it's not just letters and spaces. It was the letters were also rearranged then to look exactly like this, but the graphic design was not really my job here. So when I was involved, these different logo types already existed as static images. And what I did then was actually rebuilding and repositioning every dot of that with CSS. So it's all HTML elements. Each dot is a div. And then it's just CSS basically, and rearranging all the dots or rearranging all the letters. Each letter is an element, and then each dot within a letter is an element. And so I rearranged the letters based on the graphic material which was already there. I rearranged the letters in CSS and wrote a JavaScript to randomly remove the different dots, so it's not always the same animation, but it's always a bit different. That's how this works.
All right, okay. Thanks for that. Clever solution. I'm sure
Thanks.
The designers must have been pleasantly surprised with that, suddenly to see their static logo kind of coming to life. Must be a nice thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, so we have a question here that says, it's more of a comment than a question. Do you know the Electronic Literature Organization? Do you know the work in electronic literature? Your work with Bennett is aligned with their works.
I don't know an electronic literature. I'm not sure what's meant by organization. I don't know like a
I don't know. I don't know if it's
organized
like
company or
maybe.
something. I don't know of that, but I know the idea of electronic literature. I thought a lot about this and discussed with Guy Bennett if it is electronic literature or not, because I'm not sure. I have different opinions on this, because the works were originally written to be printed. So I think the idea of electronic literature is kind of to make works which only can work digitally. And with Post Self-Evident Poems, it was originally written to be printed. And then there are some poems, not all of them, which can only use their full potential when presented digitally. So you could say it is electronic literature, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So it's I've just had this clarified by my colleagues. So it's artists and researchers doing digital/electronic literature. So yeah, it's this kind of like border liminal area between poetry and digital experimentation, I suppose. So it seems to me that it is. Okay, so well, I think that wraps it up. So thank you very much, Jonas. That was really fascinating talk. And I hope if you find these sessions interesting, maybe you can attend some of the other ones, and then you can be on the other side asking some questions to someone else. And there's not going to be a session next week. The next one is the 17th of May. It's going to be Susanna Carvalho and Kai Bernal of Atelier Carvalho Bernal. So it's I believe it's a collaboration between a Portuguese and a German designer, and their work is quite interesting as well. So I'm sure it's going to be a great session. And I believe we can finish there. So thanks so much, Jonas. That was great.
Thank you very much. It was fun.
Okay, take care. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.